Hello, and welcome to another episode of Wheel of Horror, the podcast where two best friends spin a wheel once a week. It chooses the horror film, and they discuss it. Today, we're talking 1978's Jaws 2, which was directed by Jeanette Schwartz. Schwartz.
It's not Steven Spielberg.
No,
That's not
no.
him. Okay.
I'm your co-host, Alec.
Erik.
And sorry to all the Final Girl fans out there. We were going to do that for the last movie of the wheel, but we just figured it's summer and we haven't done Jaws 2, and it's getting kind of crazy. So let's do a little Jaws 2.
We've had quite the sequel here in general, so it was time to do Jaws 2, and I love it.
It's surprising we've made it this far and we haven't done this one because, like, we both like this one. People like it.
I mean, we were like not raised on Martha's Vineyard, but we that was our summer like vacation spot growing up a couple times. Me and you went like at least three times we've been there. So Jaws has a special place in our heart for sure.
Uh, we're talking like 15 for me.
Yeah, I've gone like four times with you, always with you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like a place my mom and my dad, and me, we've all rented houses there, and I just love. If somebody said, "Hey, you can move to Martha's Vineyard, you have to live there year round right now," I'd do it in a heartbeat. I don't care. I live there in the winter. I love it.
Hell yeah. And this movie just perfectly encapsulates the 4th of July, Martha's Vineyard aura. Like whatever it looks like then, it looks like now almost. It's crazy how to look at it like that from that lens.
Yeah, the first one more so, but this one is filmed a bit on Martha's Vineyard. There is some other footage though that was filmed in Florida. All of the beach scenes were filmed in Florida, so it's not as big of a deal as the first one. And the reason that was is because people actually hated it. The first one, the people that lived there hated having Universal filming.
Because the tourism.
Well, the tourism, but also like they would have to close things in their most profitable months for the filming. So like they were like, this isn't helping us.
You say box office movie, no one bats an eye. You say blockbuster, we got a real problem on our hands at Martha's Vineyard.
Oh my God. But
Sorry.
but yeah, so the second one definitely there are signs you can see if you type in like Jaws 2, it'll be like Universal Go Home. Like there were like little protests, but whatever. So they did move some of the scenes to Florida, and you can tell, dude, the beach scenes in this movie, I'm like, it doesn't look like Martha's Vineyard.
You're right. You're right. Now that I think about the beach scenes, it does not look like Martha's Vineyard at all.
And I've been to Martha's Vineyard many times. There are no shark posts or whatever on the beach, so they can, like that lookout nest that does not exist anywhere in
Yeah.
Martha's
Oh
Vineyard.
my God, I have so much to talk about that scene too. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we both are massive Jaws fans. I think it might be my mom's favorite movie, so we're well versed in the original Jaws. But I'm gonna say a statement here, and I'm curious to see what you think.
Please do.
I think if you were to just list every single shark movie of all time, I think this is the second best of all time.
I would have to agree.
I can think of other good ones.
But it could have been so much better in some different ways, but it's a really good sequel, as good as it could get
Right.
under the circumstances. New director, Richard Dreyfuss didn't want anything to do with the movie.
Oh, Richard Dreyfuss didn't want anything to do with the movie. Neither did Roy Scheider. I have so much to say about this dude.
Well, yeah, go, say it. I want to hear it.
Yeah, so okay, so we can both agree that this is probably the second best shark movie of all time. I mean, there's Deep Blue Sea.
What's Deep Blue Sea is my like the other one. I'd be like for the modern times, that was a really groundbreaking movie and
Yeah,
really good.
47 meters down is pretty good. The reef's pretty good. Open water's pretty good.
You ever seen Megalodon,
The Meg, you mean?
the Meg or whatever? Yeah,
Yeah, that's fucking awful.
this movie's way better than that.
Yeah. So, all right. So really quick, because like, listen, if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably seen the movie. We'll go through the plot a little bit, but there's a lot of cool stuff that actually happened behind the scenes, and one of them is this little story. So Roy Scheider wanted nothing to do with this movie. He was under a contract with Universal where he legally had to be in this movie. So he tried to pretend he was crazy and get like put into a mental asylum to get out of it, and they still were like, no. So he had to do this movie. Apparently, he got in a fist fight with the director
What?
multiple times, dude, because he didn't want to be there. So he like literally just dragged his corpse through this movie. I think he did an okay job, like acting wise, it wasn't bad. But he absolutely wanted nothing to do with this movie.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this movie was a career killer in general for him too, probably because he was typecasted as, oh yeah, the Chief from Jaws. That's it. But there's I think four main people in this movie, maybe five from the original. Chief Brody, Roy Scheider, the mayor,
Hmm.
and Lorraine Gary, who's Chief's wife. And then, of course, John Williams. And then that one cop who was like a kind of a dimwit, but like nice and means well. You
Yeah.
know what I'm talking about. The other like Chief Brody's right hand guy who you
Yeah.
go to for stuff.
He replaces him.
Yeah, there's five people in this movie from the original, and they mention what's his name, Hooper. They say he's
Yeah.
on the Aurora in Antarctica.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, like, way to write him off script, and like, yeah, he's like thousands of miles away. So, like, yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. So, I think obviously Quinn's dead, but I can only imagine the drama. He's also my father-in-law always talks about Roy Scheider because he was an FNM alumni, and there's a building at FNM named after him. So,
Yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty cool life, dude. I mean, he was a boxer, he was in the military, he was an actor. It's kind of funny though, man. Like, I'm not trying to say this isn't like a compliment to me, but I was looking at Roy Scheider. I'm like, I have like the same body as him. And like because he has no arm muscles at all. And I'm like thinking, this guy was a boxer. And I'm looking at his arm muscles of mine. I'm like, we both have like noodle arms.
definitely a flyweight or lightweight for sure.
Yeah, but he's I don't know, it's just interesting to see him. I'm like, he's not like built like a boxer, what I would imagine. But I guess maybe like a 50s boxer. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, so moving on to the movie a little bit. I mean, the first one ended so perfectly that this one obviously is just to make money. And
Can I run through the stats? We used to do this for the sequels, spring of the sequels. So can I run through them real quick? So Jaws, the first film, came out on June 20th, 1975. It's 2 hours and 4 minutes long, $9 million budget, and the box office it made pretty much $500 million, which is like 50 times the budget. The Rotten Tomato critic score is 97%. The Rotten audience is 90%. This film came out a mere 3 years later, June 16th, 1978. It's an hour 56. It's a little shorter. Budget was 20 million, which is pretty much double the budget of Jaws, and it made 208 million, which is still substantial. And the Rotten Critic score was 62%. Rotten Audience was 39, so clearly not as loved as Jaws.
I think this deserves like a 70.
Yeah, a 70. A 70 is good. It's like a
Yeah.
7 out of 10. It's nothing amazing, but it has the fun of it for sure.
Well, until Rocky 2 came out in 1979, this was actually the most successful sequel of all time. It actually beat The Godfather 2 and other sequels that had come out before it, and it was considered at the time for like a year, not even the most successful sequel of all time.
It's a good point because Jaws is probably the first blockbuster movie you can think of for the summer, and to have another Jaws come out is just genius. And people are gonna go to see that movie. Why not?
There had been a million ripoffs after Jaws. I mean, you had Piranha, Orca. I think Alligator came out in '80, so I was after that. But there were a few ripoffs that came out right after Jaws, and then this was like, hey, fuck you. Like, we're the real ones. We're getting money for this. So they come back, and I will say the tagline in this movie is pretty good, and it's definitely been spoofed a million times, but it's just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, dot, dot, dot. And I've seen that with like Ghoulies, where it says just when you thought it was safe to use the bathroom again, Ghoulies 2. And like, so if you type in just when you thought it was blank again, like there is a million spoofs on that. So that's from this movie, which is like, okay, okay.
It's like Shrek 2, like just when you thought the swamp was safe again, Shrek 2. It's like, oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure if you were to type in like sequels with that tagline, I would be surprised if there's like 50 of them, just stupid spoofs. But they'd all originate from this. So that's kind of interesting. But the way this one starts off is they find the boat. These two divers just find the orca, which crashed, which you'd think they would have recovered, but okay.
Insurance purposes, they would have to go investigate. There's no doubt.
It's just like, why not? Why not? But let me ask you this though, because I don't think there's a definitive answer to this, but what year do you think this takes place? The first one takes place in 74. You see it on the Shark Attack report. He types in July 3rd, 1974. Came out in 75. What year do you think this takes place?
I would say 78 because of the election, right? Or something.
What election?
I mean, isn't the mayor kind of like looking to rerun or something? I forgot the scene.
No, no. The whole thing that's going on in the island this time is there's a developer and he's trying to build like hotels and stuff, and they're trying to sell land.
And they have that party at the beginning too. And
Yeah, because they're opening a new hotel, and Chief Brody's wife is working for the real estate developer. So he's the guy that gets Chief Brody fired. But the mayor, Yeah. So okay. So you think it takes place in 1978?
How long after Jaws is this?
Well, it says 4 years. So
I just said
technically,
4 years.
no, I hold on. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it doesn't make sense because then you look at the age of the kids in the first one and then to this one, and they've aged like,
Yeah, they're like 25. At least, yeah.
well, let's say give them the benefit of the doubt that the older son was 12 in the first one. I'm gonna lean more towards 9 or 10, but let's say he's 12. He's probably 16 or 17 in this one. So it just doesn't add up. I mean, this would have to take place in like 1982 or something like that for it to make any sense, but whatever, whatever. Fuck the kids.
Would say that's one of the outliers I saw. I was like, geez, how old did these kids get already? Like, what year is it? That makes you think. It's like, what year is it when you see that? Like Michael and John, I
Yeah.
think the other kid.
It's the only plot hole I can think of in the movie because it doesn't give us an idea of when it actually takes place.
Like
So,
he eats his Wheaties, and that's all I have to say.
well, they're like, he eats Cheerios.
Speaking of that, there is a ton of product placement. Did he say Cheerios in it?
Yeah, Cheerios and Fruit Loops in this. They argue about that.
There's Coca-Cola constantly in this movie. Constant product placement in this movie. Way more than Jaws, the first movie.
Yeah, they knew it was gonna make money, so they're like, fuck it.
Like, well, let's get some sponsorship up on this bitch for sure.
The mayor, you were just mentioning him, the fact that he is still in charge? What the fuck?
After he dropped the ball,
He dropped the ball hard in the first one. Like multiple people died because of it.
it's like you just gotta pretend like, oh, people didn't talk back then. No one knew. There's no articles. It's like imagine today that did that. Like mayor opens the beach after multiple people died just to make money on 4th of July.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%. He should have immediately been, forced to resign. But also, he's still the mayor. We're gonna say 4 years later, but we don't know. And then the shit starts happening again, and he still acts like I don't know.
He's still doing it. He's like, well, it worked last time. Gotta keep them beaches open.
He is one of my favorite characters. I think the actor is just amazing.
He's phenomenal. He actually made Jaws because you believed him that he was such a stubborn dick. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? He was so good at it. And the scene where the 4th of July happens and he's just on the beach, like, what have I done? Such a good scene. To see him in this is cool too. Did you know about the deleted scene in Jaws too?
Yeah, let me say really quick about the mayor. So I love him and I want to hear about I know the delete scene, but I want to hear about it. But I love that in the first movie he says, my kids were on that beach too. And then his son is one of the kids in this movie. And he's a I was like, good job.
I know. I know. There's some cool shit in this movie. They do a good job
Yeah.
like coming up with ideas.
But tell the deleted scene because this is a scene that absolutely should have been kept in the movie.
It should have been in the movie. It's like one of those redeeming scenes for the mayor is when they're pretty much just doing a late night vote in an office to get rid of Chief Brody and demote him from chief. And everyone votes that yes, let's demote Chief Brody. He's incapable. And he's the one vote that says we need to keep him as chief. And I thought that was fucking cool, redeeming, and they should have done it, dude. I think that
Yeah.
adds a layer. I think that adds a layer, especially with his son, knowing that his son's out there too. And I don't know. I think that was such a cool scene. Why did they delete that?
I literally cannot think of a scene that should not have been deleted more than this one in any movie.
Right. Like that's like one of the best deleted scenes I could think of.
Yeah, yeah, so dumb they didn't do that because that character, like, we know he's a scumbag, but we
He's a human and
understand.
he has he's Chief saved this kid technically, and he's gonna save him again. So I don't know.
Well, we don't know about. I don't. He doesn't know his son's out there because they're not out yet in the second one at least. But yeah, no, that character's incredible, and it really needed this to just add another layer to his character because he's a human and he makes mistakes, and he also, even though he's doing the wrong thing, we at least see why he's doing it. It's not doesn't mean it's right, but we can at least understand why he's doing the things he does. But anyways, the movie starts though with the orca, whatever they find, they get killed. There's pictures that are taken. There's a shark attack that happens. We see the pictures of the shark or whatever. But the way the movie starts is there's that research developer and they're opening up a Holiday Inn or whatever. Chief's running late. His wife works there. She's like, "Where the fuck were you?" This scene's creepy though, dude. They have one of the I think she's the high school prom queen or something in high
I
school.
caught that too. That was weird. It's like,
Dude, she
ooh,
comes up to cut the ribbon in a bikini, and Chief, who's like 60 or something, just goes like,
married
woo,
with kids next to his wife. Yeah,
just
that's
like,
not.
woo, woo. And like, and his wife's like, oh, Chief, and like, taps him or whatever. But I'm like, oh my God. Like,
Hashtag cancel Chief. for this reason, not any other reason. Don't cancel the mayor. Hashtag cancel the chief. That's what we need.
Just kind of like, oh, I thought that was a good idea. Like, anyways. So yeah, so there's a big basically this is just showing that there's a real estate developer on the island and they're opening up a bunch of stuff. So there's like, tension on the island that wasn't there before. There's people that are coming to buy property on the beach, and so everything needs to look perfect. But Chief is pretty sure there's a shark attack again. And we find that out because there's an orca that washed up on the beach. It's got a huge bite taken out of it.
Which is probably making fun of Orca, the movie, right? Yeah, yeah.
100%. And then there's also a scene of a water skier where the boat gets, she gets killed and the boat blows up and it burns the shark and kills a woman. So like there are murders that are
Which is
happening.
when you see the budget of the film because like it blows up and it's like, okay, they got some money. Like,
Yeah, and I guess like this is something that I thought would have been pretty interesting. I heard this guy online describing it and I was like, I wonder because the whole movie basically the idea is like is Chief crazy? The audience knows he's not, but he has to convince the town he's not and there's another shark. I think it would have been more interesting and this guy was saying online if we don't actually know. The audience doesn't know if there's a shark. And we don't know if Chief Brody's is actually going crazy, if these are just random boat attacks and stuff happening, or if there's actually a shark. And then later out, we find out there is a shark. But I think the idea of like not knowing for a while, I think that would have added another layer. What do you think?
I agree. I think that idea was solidified. I mean, obviously we know because we saw the shark attack at the opening of the film, but
Yeah.
imagine keeping that a secret throughout the film. Like there's been people in an orca and then Chief's just speculating. We don't see any of the shark, but then we see that one picture that the camera took, remember?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That was the proof that Chief needed because that's the dark, pale, black eye that Quint was talking about in Jaws 1.
And nobody believes him. It's so obvious.
That's all he needed to see. And he knew at that moment there is a shark out there.
And if they showed that, if that was the reveal to the audience, like, oh shit, there really is a shark.
That would have been cool. Like we never started with like the shark at all until we saw that. It's like, and he talks about Quentin. Quinn always said about the black pale eye or whatever that
Yep.
rolls back in the head. Like I
Yeah.
think that could have been cool. I have so many like wishes about this movie that would have happened. And one of them obviously is Hooper shows up at the end and saves the day. Like in some kind of private jet that like lands and he just immediately hits the shark with like some crazy fucking tranquilizer or rocket ship. He's been in Antarctica, and I think they should have ended the movie the same way and just been like, "What day of the week is it?" It's Wednesday, and that's how the movie ends.
Oh my God.
And
Yeah.
they just hug and like, and it's also because Hooper like he would have saved his kid too. So
In 1978, it would have worked. If that happened today, I'd roll my eyes. But yeah,
you
sure.
know this movie could have used Hooper showing up at the end,
Yeah, I
and
guess.
it would have been fucking cool. It would have been cool.
It never bothered me for some reason as a kid. It just never did because to me it was like, well, the focus is the teens, really. Like the second half of the movie is all about them. So like I see what you mean, but it's just fan service.
Yeah, no, it would have been, I would have liked it. I would have liked it. Like imagine like his whole Antarctic squad just like showing up and just fucking nuking the shit out of Jaws and like taking it out. Just, like a helicopter just like and the shark just like not like Quint's boat and he's like, I hated the orca anyway.
No,
Like
this is what would have happened if this movie came out in 2024. You're right. He would have shown up, he would have shot it with some sort of new sort of stun gun thing and then kept it to research it. And then in part three, it would have escaped and been smarter and then it would have been the deep blue sea shark. Anyways, fuck that. Didn't
fuck
whatever.
that.
We
Yeah.
don't
I
need
don't know about that.
Hooper. The movie's fine. It's all about the kids. It's all about Chief Brody's younger sons, Michael and I can't remember the other one. But yeah, they're like, we're all gonna go out on the boats, and the dad's like, no, you're getting a fucking job. You're not getting boats or whatever. But they sneak out, and all of the friends go out on the boat, and it's pretty hard to tell them apart. I can't. There's so many of them that look the same.
Yeah, it's very like 70s-ish people. They all have like long hair and but
Yeah.
also he gets stuck bringing his little brother out too. So it's two Brody kids out on the water. Because his brother's gonna rat on him and he's like, "Oh, fine, come with me."
Yeah. So they end up sneaking out together, and of course, then the shark starts attacking. The thing that's kind of stupid about this movie is they make it seem like the sharks have sonar radar. and they can like beam to each other to come or whatever. I think that's what they're trying to indicate that like the first one was sending out sonar to other ones to come to the area, other rogue sharks.
Someone said like didn't the other research woman say that?
She was saying that whales and dolphins communicate by sonar, and then Chief Brody's like, "Wait, could sharks do it too?" And she's like, "No."
And that's the reason why there's a second rogue shark. It's like, no, that's not. That was lame. That was lame.
My favorite line in the whole movie, though, is I mean, it's awful line, but when she's like, "Sharks don't have revenge, Chief Brody," and then it's like Jaws 4, the revenge.
Yeah, yeah, you're
Yeah, because
right.
in that one, and I love, dude, if you ever watch, I think it's on Graham Norton, I think, but it's a British talk show from the early 2000s, and Roy Scheider goes on it, and he's just like, the fourth one, he's like, it's so ridiculous. So you're gonna tell me that a shark hates my family so much it's gonna travel from Cape Cod all the way down to the Bahamas?
It absolutely hates the Brodies. Great whites in particular, like hammerheads love the Brodies. You know, they
Uh,
love the reef sharks love the Brodies. White tips love the Brodies. Makos love the Brodies. Great whites hate the Brodies.
but Eric, this is what they're basically implying. Like this, because the sharks that are coming after the Brodies, this is like 10 years after. The revenge is like 10 years after.
So
So
it's like no, even longer than that because Brody's gone.
Brody's dead, and it takes place in 1987. So let's assume it's 1987. The first one came out in 1975, second one 1978. So they killed two sharks in this area in the 70s. And then by the late 1980s, the sharks are aware of the Brodies, where they're traveling to, and hunt them down. That is so fucking crazy. This one's crazy.
Through sonar, they're talking Brody. Brody sucks. Kill the Brody family.
So that means that like they've been passing down legends of lore
I know, I
for
know.
10 straight years. Like they killed your mother and then they killed your.
It's so
All
stupid.
right. But, anyways, that's the fourth one. This one's also kind of stupid because the shark is like, "Yeah, okay, 4 years later, I'll go back and I don't know." But yeah, so the kids are, they're out. The shark comes and he does kill this one girl, Tina, and her boyfriend. And that's actually a really good scene. Like that scene where the guy gets knocked off the boat and his girlfriend's like pretending to reach for him and the shark gets him. Like that, I thought that was pretty cool.
My dad always laughed at her acting like shark. Remember that scene? It's like that is one of the most late 70s acting I can think of. So good.
Well, we always love talking about Quentin Tarantino talking about sequels, and he has this whole rant about Jaws 2, and he's like, that kill could have been in the first one. That was that good. It could have been in the first one. And he's like raving about it.
Quentin's takes are great too. He has the best takes.
But he's seen every movie ever made.
He loves Psycho 2, which by the way, small plug, we did a great episode on Psycho 2. Listen to that.
Yeah, but Quentin Tarantino goes off about Jaws 2, and he's like, it's a slasher movie. It's not.
Maybe that's him just giving the other director like you did good too. Because there's some, I mean, it's not too far off from Spielberg in some sense. You know, it's really not that terrible.
It's the same thing as Halloween 1 and 2. Like they were shot so close in tandem, same area, same film stock, same crew or same cast to some degree. It's the same thing.
I did enjoy some of the shots of the dorsal fin rising through the water, which I don't
Yeah.
think was in Jaws as much. It was in Jaws, but I liked the way he shot the dorsal fin rising out of the water. I thought that was so well done.
Well, they learned things from the first one where they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, we can't do this. Oh, we never did this. Let's try that." Like, so they do some cool, interesting shots in this one. But yeah, so the shark kills the boy, and then Tina is like lost or sitting in the boat by herself. Chief Brody finds her, and then he's like, "I'm going off to find my boys or whatever." And he just hunts them down. They tie all of their boats together. Some of them are popped, some of them are flipped, but they kind of make like a boat raft kind of thing. And then this is great. This is so great. The helicopter comes, and I just fucking love that this helicopter lands. They're like, "You guys need a ride?" And it's like,
It's like
"Yeah."
we're saved, our savior, like a helicopter, modern technology. We're alive. Yeah.
And then the shark just pops the boat, and then
Didn't he
the
say like I just gotta like adjust where I am and pivot? Like I'll come to you. What did he say to like he has to move the helicopter or something? I forgot what it was.
I think he was gonna give him a rope.
Yeah, he gave him a rope and they're like, "You got a rope! Oh my God, a rope!" And then they all tied the boats together, and then he had to move the helicopter or something. And then that's when the shark came and bit like the flotation shit and took him out. That was sick.
Yeah, it
That
pops.
was
So like,
cool. That was cool.
Well, I liked it because the he pops one of the the flotation landing gears and then it pulls it down to where the blade hits the water and then it starts breaking the blades as it's hitting the water
And
and then
just fucking up all the other boats. Yeah, I love
dude,
that.
they're so lucky it didn't hit any of them.
Oh, imagine one of them just had like a blade on their head. That would have been cool.
Well, it's PG because actually another deleted scene is the helicopter pilot getting out of the helicopter and then the shark killing him, but they deleted it because they didn't want it to get an R rating.
Really?
Yeah, because this movie is not that gory, dude. And there wasn't a PG-13 rating in 1978, so it was PG or R.
What's crazy too is this is also like technically like a teenage slasher movie in some sense because how do I phrase this? This came out before Friday the 13th. Teenagers and stuff and like I don't know. There's like a hint of the 80s, like the before the 80s in it.
Yeah, oh, it's very much like a teen slasher film, but before Halloween. It was after Black Christmas, but still.
True, true.
It does lay the groundwork for some just like teen
Like the
drama.
way they talk, like who's going to the movies? Teenagers go to the movies.
Yeah.
Like that's what they probably thought of. So they took their Jaws formula and made it into a summer blockbuster.
And I mean, I'm totally guessing this, but also like the people that were probably most impacted by Jaws were probably like 10-year-olds in 1975, and then now they're a little bit older, so they might want to see, ooh, like, a 50-year-old isn't gonna go back to see the sequel, but a 15-year-old might, so.
That's exactly these producers thinking.
Yeah. So, and I like that. I like that it's different because if it was the exact same thing where, he's like, I'm going to get another oceanographer guy, I'm going to hire another captain. Like, dude, fuck that. That would have sucked.
Yeah, imagine they had like Quint, like Robert Shaw back in this, and he's like, I'm Quint's brother, like Bishop, and he has like an eye patch, and he's like, I have my boat.
I thought you were going to be like, they brought him back and he's got like half his body's missing and he's in a wheelchair.
No, no, no,
Like,
Quint's
God.
dead, but like, imagine they brought like I'm his
He's,
brother,
I swam back. He's like, I made it back to the lake.
but he's like even more crazier than Quint and has an eye patch, and like, just
Yeah.
I don't know. Good thing
Yeah.
they didn't go that route for sure.
No, this was a good route to go because it's similar but different. And yeah, so then basically Chief Brody they get to this place called Cable Junction, which is like a, I don't know, power island out in the middle of nowhere in the ocean. They get there and then Chief Brody comes and he fights the shark. And the way he does it is and there's a little bit of a foreshadowing earlier where they're like trying to find something underwater and they find one of the power cables at the bottom of the ocean and that's what leads to Cable Junction. So Chief knows, I guess, to pull that up. Oh, and they also say like he hears sound.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's that foreshadowing, and then the orca scene with the other like researcher was like they feed off of vibration.
Right, right. And that's the thing. 1978, the knowledge on sharks is so limited. Now you probably ask a 10-year-old and they would know that because they've seen Shark Week. Like there's
I
so
watched Shark
much.
Week this year. I'm so surprised. Usually Shark Week's now because of the Olympics, though. It's pushed off, but
But you know what I mean? Like back then, the knowledge on sharks was probably not nearly what it is today, for the average
I
person.
think for the general public, and no one had any
Yeah.
idea.
For sure. So now it's like, oh, yeah, yeah, sharks. Yeah, of course they fucking know. They respond to sound and blood and all this stuff. But yeah, so he's able to pull the cable out. The shark comes up and bites it, and he gets electrocuted and dies. Which I'm sorry, but if that happened, I'm pretty sure Chief Brody's getting electrocuted too. But fuck me.
He has like a drop of water on him. He's done. Like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of the movie. The shark dies, and they get home, and the kids get home, and that's it. That's the last we see of Chief Brody ever. I think he dies of cancer, they say in the third or fourth one. And yeah, it's a good movie. But it's interesting. They had another idea for a Jaws 2, and I want to see what you think. And also, I think they could still make it. So, do you know what this was initially going to be?
No.
Okay. So the initial idea for Jaws 2 was going to be a prequel, and it was actually going to be about Quint on the USS Indianapolis.
Okay. Yep.
And it was going to be that whole story about the boat going down, the sharks coming, and them surviving, which I think actually would be a very good movie. And I'm kind of glad they didn't release it in the 70s because I don't think they would have been able to pull it off.
That would, you know what they could have done though to even keep going. Sorry, I'll cut you
Do
off.
it. They could do it now though. They could do Jaws. If they remake Jaws, they're shooting themselves in the face. But if they do a Jaws prequel,
There are a few Indianapolis films with ones with Nick Cage too, so I don't know if they could.
oh, they already did that.
They've done Indianapolis films and they haven't done as well, even though it's an amazing story. But they could do a prequel of a rogue shark in the New Jersey River,
Right. That's what Jaws is based off of.
like back in, I don't know, the early 1900s.
1916.
I think that could be fucking cool.
But that's what Jaws is based off of already.
Right, but like Jaws the beginning, before like pollution took out a bunch of the bigger sharks and stuff, they could do like a like an and like a like very limited weapons, and I'm talking harpoons to fight Jaws.
Yeah,
More, yeah. I mean,
I'm down for that.
I wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't hate it. Like not a Jaws the beginning, but
Well, I think it'd be interesting because you didn't see Pearl, right?
no.
That takes place in 1918, and there's not a lot of movies that take place during that time, during the 1910s. So it could be cool to see, like, yeah, a shark movie from 1916 and just to see how they deal with it. Yeah,
The same way as they would deal with it in the 70s.
probably pretty similar. They just wouldn't have any radar on their boats
But they would
or
have like an actual fucking pirate instead of Quint
an
too. Like
actual pirate. Yeah, but I don't know. Overall, John Williams' score is great. Definitely has the same feel and look as the first one, but not even
there's a
close.
lot more energy in this one. John Williams, if they didn't get John Williams, it would have failed because John Williams' music, if you listen to the music in this one, it really just keeps the pace going and it's very upbeat and not as like dark and stuff.
Mm.
But it's as good as a Jaws 2 could be. Like it's as good as like what else are you gonna do? Like, oh, it's Jaws' kid. However, Peter Benchley, who wrote Jaws, also wrote a story called The Beast, which is phenomenal about a giant squid that attacks a town. And they kill the giant squid, and then they later find out that it was a baby squid, and there's a bigger one out there, which was kind of a cool concept, and that came out after Jaws. So
Well, they should have maybe done that, like where it's like, oh, there's a bigger one. Or, dude, how simple would this have been? You literally just say Jaws 2, and there's two fins coming out of the water, and there's two sharks.
I don't hate that.
Like that seems simple to me to be like, oh, because like up the ante, either make it bigger or have two.
Give the alien Jaws more Jaws.
Yeah, two because it's Jaws 2.
Or Air Jaws, where it's just like he plays basketball,
No,
like Air Bud.
no, they already did Sharknado. But no, I think the reason that this movie and the first one work so well is they just barely show the shark. And
Yeah.
movies have not learned that. American Werewolf in London nailed it, but there's, I mean, now with CGI, the biggest fault in any monster movie is they show too much, and your eyes are like, that's so stupid. So fill in the blanks, show less, and that's what I think the recipe for success is.
Tension and suspense, anticipation goes a long way in horror. And even today.
Arachnophobia versus eight-legged freaks. Like arachnophobia works. Eight-legged freaks is stupid, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Anyways, you got any last minute thoughts on this bad boy?
No, just I would have liked Hooper in this movie. A small cameo, even showing him like caring about Brody and trying to get there would have been cool.
How about this? What about a phone call?
That would have been great. That would have been
Okay.
great.
Okay. You would have done like a split screen phone call or they cut.
That would have made the movie like 10% better. I wanted that connection because that's the connection at the end of Jaws.
Okay. Because yeah, I don't want you to be too brainwashed by pointless fan service cameos, you know?
No, I think just having a presence would have been better than like he's in Antarctica. It's like
Yeah.
Jesus, like wow, they really couldn't get him in this film.
Yeah.
Like he's on a research in the moon. Like he might as well have been like on the moon.
He's
Like
on the
Antarctica, he's
moon.
Antarctica, like the farthest place away. I just love it.
All right. So I guess that's it. Check out Jaws 2 if you haven't already. It's good. 3 and 4.
We need to do those though. We need to do those.
We will, but they are crimes against humanity. But we will. I want to specific. I've seen them, multiple times, but I really do want to do 4 again. The Michael Caine one.
We'll see if we'll see if we can get Michael Caine on. It'd be cool to get him on. She's like, can you please talk about this? Because it'd be the biggest podcast ever.
Oh my, yeah, it definitely would. All right. Well, we got the new wheel. This is the old wheel
Yeah,
finishing off. So we only have 8 movies, I think, until October. So let's give it a spin.
let's go. Okay. Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Is that like the 2010 one?
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's with Jack Haley Earl or whatever. Jack Hurl Haley. I don't know.
Rorschach from Watchmen.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we're gonna finish out the series with that. So that'll be good to finally be done with the Nightmare on Elm Street series. So everybody, thank you very much for listening into our entire wheel and our discussion on Jaws 2. And if you haven't had a chance, we released a bonus episode a couple weeks ago about For Long Legs. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And otherwise, we'll see you next week with A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake.
Woo!